Welcome, everybody. It is time for another edition of Is This Game For You? Apologize, a little late starting. Small technical difficulty on the other end getting the presentation up. I will take blame for it. We're also, in all honesty, I also was trying to prep a slide, Anthony, and then I realized I'd already done that game. So that's how excited I was apparently about doing these things that I was going back to another game. But what are we talking about today, Anthony? I am amped about this because you introduced this game to me. And
'tis true.
I played it and I loved it. I'll talk more about why and if this game is for you, but Santa Monica. Man, we are talking about Santa Monica. This is an overdue conversation. Let's first, before we do anything here, let's break down this game and who did it, all the good stuff. So this game, Santa Monica, where the goal is to build a beach community in Southern California with tourists, locals, and fun shops. Designers Josh Woods, artist Jeremy Nugent and Josh Wood, and publisher is Aldrich Entertainment Group, or AEC. So, it's a game.
AEG.
What did I say?
C.
Wow. Well, I don't know what AC is, but AEG.
That could be Alderac Entertainment Corporation, but I don't think that's what they're
called. But AEG, obviously pretty well known in terms of what they've published, but this one's a fun one, man. You introduced this to me. Let's talk about just first the setting of this game, and that is the theme of Santa Monica. First and foremost, I gotta say it comes through so well. Talk about what drew you with the theme, because you introduced me, so I think it's appropriate you kind of talk to that.
I mean, it was the box cover art for sure, for starters. There was something about that color palette. It just, like, I don't know, it spoke to me. I've said this before about this game, but I feel like when you open the box, you can, like, hear the seagulls and the ocean. That's how true to theme this game really is. And I was lucky enough to get this as like a choice in a board game subscription plan that my wife and I do, and this was one of the choices, and I was like, yes, boop.
I'm amazed that you got this. I mean, we have, actually, I should note, Eric's chiming in, and I think this is an accurate statement. It's one of the best games of 2020, but it got no love. That's why it was in a box. I mean, I cannot imagine how this game was in a box that just got to you in the way that it did.
There's just too many games.
It is. There's too many games. This game, though, from thematic perspective, I mean, I've visited Santa Monica. It fits. I mean, the idea of this game, and we'll get into gameplay momentarily, but when it comes down to it, the idea of the tourist and managing what you're going to do with the tourist versus do I want to go for working with the locals and so many different ways to win in this game that I think it's just exciting. I will say we should speak a little bit to the art / the components in this game before we get into the gameplay, because I think they stand out. I mean, you look at just the meeples, obviously these bright colored meeples. I love the little camera on the tourists. That makes me smile.
Yeah, it's amazing how one little piece of ink can change what that meeple looks like. And I'm also glad that they are the shape that they are. I love meeples. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, but every once in a while, it's nice to see a different shape than just the standard, round starfish shaped looking meeple. And these really look cool, especially when you're moving them around the board. And yeah, the camera and the sunglasses is great stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, everything in this game, it's simple. The work is, the art and the commodes it's really very simple in when you look at the core pieces that you're using constantly, but there's enough differences and they're striking. So to me, that captures a lot of it about the value of games. It's striking but simple, and that's how I think about the gameplay in this game. So let's actually just break down the gameplay a little bit. You have a starting card as you start this game, and that starting card is a larger card. It takes up double the size of what the other cards you're going to collect in the game are going to be. You start with the sort amount of people, and you're going to be building a tableau, which I for one just want to point out, if you like tableau building, this game's nice. That doesn't have to take you to the level of a, say, hour and a half game like an Everdell. So that's one thing that I bring forward, and I say that as a big fan of Everdell. So I'll point that out as I say that. But you look at the gameplay in this, and you're going to be expanding upon that. And as you put cards down, there's a lot of different symbols on these cards, and we can't go through every one of them, but some of them have worker placement spots where you have to have X amount of a type of worker. Other are going to reward you for getting a series of symbols together, maybe 3, 4, 5 in a row. And the rewards you're going to reap are really valuable, but it also causes you to be faced with choices because you might have a really good shot at one thing, but you have to choose between, do I want to do this or do I want to play something else that sets up maybe even bigger play, but there's a risk involved because I'm going to need yet another card that has said symbol. So I like that about this game. I mean, this is your shot, so you can speak a little bit to what's going on here. But the idea here is, again, a beautiful tableau. And let's talk a little bit about part of the gameplay is there's these VIP characters. Can you tell everybody a little bit about the VIP characters and what they do?
Right, so I believe everyone gets one VIP character no matter what your starting building is. There might be one that has 2, I forget.
There is one with 2. I should point that out because when I did this with my son got the one with 2, which was a very nice advantage and but the game was still very close. So I point that out. It's a nice advantage, but it's not like a game breaker or anything like that, which was my concern. Right.
No, well, to your point, because there's so many ways to score points in this game, you're not going to get bogged down with just one thing. So you might not even really touch the VIP that much and still do well and maybe even win. But the VIP specifically has, so Chris talked about the different symbols on those cards, and they're this is a sports activity, this is like an oceanfront thing, this is food or whatever. And the VIP wants to visit particular places in one of those categories. And so if you ever move them through one of those spots, one of those cards, you put these footprint tokens down to show that your VIP has been there. And that's just one way at end game that you score some points for your VIP.
But this is a good shot, I think, where you could see that. And you could see some of those symbols, too. You could see some of the symbols that you're going to get in the game. They're very obvious symbols. Honestly, you could call it the palm tree in the camera as opposed to a tourist or retail. It doesn't matter hypothetically what you call it. They're very easy to understand. And that's part of the accessibility of this game, which is visually, it's all fairly clear what you need to do. You got to learn what these symbols mean.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's not that hard to do. I mean, my 8-year-old did it. So I feel very confident. It's a very accessible form of gameplay to kind of pick up just because the symbols are easy to see.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the symbol, once you learn one, it just sort of plugs itself into the other, and you're like, okay, obviously this one means this with this particular symbol. But again, if you want to not pay attention to some of those things, it's okay, because a lot of these cards have multiple symbols, as you can see, and you're not going to always get to do everything on there. Some of the stuff is immediate, like it gives you another couple of people or some money right away immediately, and then some of them are end game scoring. We should point out, though, you mentioned the tableau. So the starting card, a tile, is long. It's double, right? It's 2 card lengths on stack on top. And then from then on, you're building the tableau, but the bottom part is boardwalk, right, stuff, and then the top part is beachside. And so you have to put those cards on top and those other cards on the bottom, which adds to the strategy in how do you choose these cards, because there's going to be a display of, I believe, 8 cards out altogether. You have to take from the bottom row, and then it kind of shift down as you go along.
You could see that here in the way that this is set up, and the fact that you've got that large card, and as you're moving, your cards are going to dictate what you can do. Can you move X amount of spaces? What characters are you going to get? I want to highlight one that Liz chiming in. This is one that Brooks and Kitty love. It's been on my wish list for a few months, and now we're increasing your want. Yeah, and I will say, Liz, that this was on my list for a long time. It came to my house for a birthday present. It was actually hard to get for a little bit too. I could say, as of the time that I'm recording this, I know our local shop, Anthony, has one of these in stock as I last checked. So if you're local to us in Verona, Cedar Grove in New Jersey, you should go check out Time War Comics, pick this up. Tell them we sent you, of course, while you're there. But again,
That won't you get you anything though. Don't.
no, I just tell them.
I know, Chris.
Maybe look at how we are. I have talked to them. I'll note I've talked to them. We're going to be doing some unboxings and other stuff there. So
No, in all seriousness, they do love Chris there to the point where I actually got a game. Chris was able to get a game for me, essentially for nothing, because of them. So
Yeah.
all joking aside,
Yes.
they
had
rock.
a $10 shelf, which it's a wonderful thing, right? Back to the point with this game in particular, I would point out a few things that just jump out to me. And I'm going to share a photo. Please note that the cards are not being the cards on the table. This is actually the display setup. So just so there's no confusion, this isn't like my tableau per se. This is a setup of just showcasing an example of the board is set up, and you're going to be able to pick from a particular row and try to take a certain card. But I want to point out the other part of this gameplay, which is this foodie truck. And when you get to the foodie truck, you've got also some additional actions that take place, which I always thought I've always really cool when the foodie and the foodie truck meet, you get these bonus actions. So you got to be careful, because when you take a card from a row, the foodie or the foodie truck moves, which is a really, if we go back to theme here, it's very particular. I think because when you go, there's a lot of food trucks. So I don't live in Santa Monica, but I visited it, as I've noted, and I just thought that was a neat addition. That's both in a theme and a gameplay perspective. So,
oh yeah, and it's a great component. It's fun to play with.
Yeah, and I've been asked before, by the way, about that playmat. So I just want to point out that was actually a Dice Tower playmat that I picked up at PAX Unplugged. You can't see it, but it's Sheriff of Nottingham below. It's a really cool art piece from Dice Tower. So because I get been asked in multiple videos after the fact, I want to make sure I point out what exactly that is. Let's talk about this game, though. We'll talk about gameplay, but what about its actual replayability? Because just because the game is fun, as we talk about on the show, doesn't mean it's necessarily replayable. I think this one is extremely replayable because you get a lot of different cards. You're never going to see the same cards in the same order. The types of cards that come out and how they're going to score are all very different. There's some for just having a certain amount of cards, some for having X amount of cards in a row. Some are you can rack up points on the VIPs, but if you're ignoring all the different multipliers and other pieces that are coming out, I don't care how many VIPs you have. You can move your VIP everywhere. You're not going to make enough points to win the game.
You also have to be careful of how many people you have in general, because there's certain scoring endgame conditions that will deduct points from you if you have meeples that haven't gotten to an activity ring, a worker placement circle card. So they're basically stranded. You're going to lose points for them sometimes.
Yes.
So it's like sometimes you get these cards like, oh, I got 3 new people. But it's like, oh man, I don't have anything for them to do, which is thematic, and that's awesome, right? The volleyball court is filled up. Nobody else can fit over there. These guys got to go do something else. So I need another activity card somewhere.
That's a really good point. And obviously that's gameplay focus, and I think it's a critical gameplay piece because you could collect a card that's got a perfect thing. Oh, I'm going to get a bunch of points for this at the end of the game. Oh, but it comes with all these people. Yeah. Where am I going to put them? Because now they have to start from this. Where am I going to do with them? And it's the second to last turn of the game, and you're thinking, is it worth taking a hit in the loss column to do this? Yeah. So, but there's so many cards there. Yeah. It's a game that I'm not saying I wouldn't take more cards, but at the same time, there's so many in this game. It's not something that's like craving more cards. Like sometimes we'll talk about a game and it's like, I wish there was a little bit more. I wish it had another.
I believe there is an expansion announced for this game.
And that I believe you're right. What I'm saying is I don't know that I even need it for it to be replayable. And I think that's
for sure. There's a ton of cards in this game.
Eric, by the way, saying it's perfect gameplay when you're down the shore in a hotel room, but it's raining.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience, my friend.
Yes, it does sound like a little bit of experience, doesn't it?
But yeah, that's a great one to get on vacation. It's it's not a huge box. It's like middle of the road. It's a ride size box.
It is not large. If you look behind me, it's right there. So you can see comparatively compared to Everdell, it's smaller.
Wow.
It's significantly smaller than Clank Legacy, but it should be. So I would hope it's bigger than that. What I do want to make sure we discuss, of course, in this, as we do in every Is This Game For You, it comes down to who is this game for? Now, you and I, are both dads. I've got a young kid who's 8 and a young kid who's 3. My 3-year-old's not playing this game, but my wife and I really enjoy it. My 8-year-old can pick it up and play it and really enjoy it. I think this game has a really wide range of enjoyability and audience. This is a game that's going to be in that's, I think 8, 9, 10 and up, you can teach them based on their, time playing games. It's probably going to be easier for, on average, a 12 plus year old.
It's funny that you say that because the official age on the box is 14 plus, but on Board Game Geek, the BGG community ranking or suggestion rather is 10 plus. So you kind of like split the difference there. And I agree.
I disagree.
Those numbers are arbitrary.
They really are. But I just point out because there is I think the complicated thing for some may be figuring out the iconography, which is not that complicated, but in explaining that to an 8-year-old is different than explaining to a 12-year-old. So,
and listen, because, and again, this is piggybacking on your point, because you get so many cards in this game, and I don't think there's anything in the rule book about like an easier version or whatever, but you can go through and take out some cards that you think are too complicated, right? And just even make the deck smaller, whatever, make the game shorter. Because I think the game ends when you have your 14th card in your tableau. Make it shorter. I think you could do that with this game. I don't know from experience, but...
And there are bonuses when you build the tableau, of course, that if you've got how many rows and straight, and there are a lot of end game kind of ways to score. So that's part of it that makes it more complicated.
But those are different every game too. Those are variable as well.
So that goes back to that replayability of variability. But I think audience wise, I think you could be a gaming group, you could be a family. You're going to potentially enjoy this. If you're looking for a dungeon builder or a Gloomhaven, no, it's not going to be a game for you. It's lighter. I think it's fair to say it's lighter, but I don't call it like a LO Games light level. I think it's a step up on something like that.
Lighter than Gloomhaven is like the first question you would ask in 20 questions for what game am I thinking of? Yes. I wouldn't, it's middle to lightweight, I guess. There's a fair amount of strategy involved. And I think that the
middle lightweight's fair, actually. I think you can start to put it more towards middle, but I wouldn't make it. I don't know that I'd focus on middle, but you're right. Strategy wise, there's a lot of decisions to make.
There's a lot going on. And I wonder if that has a little bit to do with the 14 plus as well. I'm wondering if sometimes when publishers, whoever it is that thinks of that age thing to put on the box, it's obviously some of it is a content thing, right? Which this is not an adult content game. Right. But the other thing is that maybe they're thinking that and maybe an 8 or 9-year-old can play it. And again, every kid is different, but will they really be good at it, right? Will they do well? Will they understand it enough to participate and not just sort of be halfway there?
A great comment, by the way, by Buzz. There's a ton of different ways to score in this game. It's easy to focus too much on one and overlook the better options. It's a very good point with this game. I think that is kind of what a lot of people probably will do in this game on their first play. They'll get really focused, like, I can win on this. And that's something that comes from playing other games. I think this game is balanced in that way. From an audience perspective, though, I think you hit a good mark there. As a set of final thoughts on this game, I want to say two things. I think what I've kind of pointed out already was what I think is beautiful about this game is I don't feel like it needs an expansion, but I'd take that expansion. And that's always a nice feeling. And I say that as a fan of, say, Raiders of North Sea, where Raiders of North Sea with the expansion, with the base game is a nice introduction. Yeah, the expansion gets more complicated, and I think that's great. So if the expansion's to go that kind of round, and you even up the ante a little bit, I like that kind of thing. But this game as itself doesn't need an expansion, and they're going to be happy if you never own an expansion for this game, or with one that had never happened to exist down the line, you'd be perfectly happy. The bright aesthetic of it gets your attention. It is a game that people are going to get. People have heard me say this on the channel many times now, but I'm a big fan of that game that gets your attention at the convention. You look at it, you say, I want to play that. This is going to do it. Not because it's huge, not because it draws your attention for that reason, but because it's bright and there's a joy to it when you look at it on the table. So for me, those are my big thoughts on it. And I think this is a game that will be great for anyone's collection because it fits from a family perspective, but it also fits for your gaming group or for the bulk of gaming groups. As I said, if you're playing heavy games and you're only into heavy games, no. But if you like light, medium weight games, this is going to be a game you want in your collection, or you at least want to try.
For sure, for sure. If you like light, medium weight games, then you probably enjoy games and own games that have a lot of the mechanisms that this game has. If you have any tile laying game at all, I know they're cards and not tiles, but it's essentially the same thing. It's like that. You have to match them up. There's some restrictions there, and just drafting in general is very popular in a lot of games. It's easy for people to understand. And then set collection, which is, goes back as far as Rummy, basically. So you're looking to collect those different symbols, and a longer chain might get you more points. Sometimes you can even do it more than once, right? It might be like for every, set of 2 cameras, you get X amount of points, and you can have them here, here, and here. Should point out real quick, there is, and this I know is gameplay, but a couple of ways that you can move cards around sometimes in your tableau.
Yes.
And there's just, going back to the artwork, like, some of them are like very glamorous. There's a lot going on. There's beach chairs and volleyball nets and stuff like that. And then one of them is just like, it's like the end of the boardwalk. There's like a garage or like not garage, a parking lot basically. And like, just kind of like, it's dead down there, the end of the boardwalk. It just looks great, especially when it's done and you have your final, your beachside property set up. It looks really cool.
And I want to note, because I did do a double check on this, that the Board Game Geek weight is a 2.18 out of 5. So I think the way we've described it, that's fairly, I think we've been pretty accurate. Buzz pointing out it is a great game to play on Zoom. And I agree. If everyone, I guess, as long as everyone owns the game, this is a very zoomable game. We've talked about zoomable games. And I think zoomable games is a thing that's not going away because now we've learned how well we can do these games over Zoom for those who didn't. I'll point out because if Liz is still here, Liz and her group do a lot of their stuff by Zoom because they're not all in one place. So I imagine that's another perk for Liz in particular. But that's a great point.
And real quick on that, what's great about what they did in this game is that, which is the way that makes it very easy to be a zoomable game, actually. If they didn't do this, I don't know how easy it would be. The cards are numbered from 1 to whatever. And so I've actually played this over Zoom, and as long as one of the parties participating puts their deck in order, that's kind of the only prep you have to do, then the other person has the display set up, and as soon as a card gets drafted, a new one comes down, you flip it from the deck, what card is, it's 51. All right, let me find 51.
Right.
It's in order. Here it is now. I have the same thing that you have in front of you is in front of me. So that made it really, really, really easy to get done. And
Liz does confirm Brooks and Cave said they can be easily played remotely. Thank you for confirming. Yeah, Liz, you'll really like it. You've got to play this. That's all I have to say. I want to just say thanks to Anthony, of course. Anthony runs the Board Game Dads channel, has a lot of great stuff. He's got a great summer series that's right. Going.
Yes, the summer block party has officially begun. We have 7 themes of summer, which is going to branch across 9 total videos. So we did our kickoff video last Wednesday. This Wednesday, you're going to have our first theme of summer, which is July 4th Americana games. So check that out as well. And Eric has some interesting picks and ideas for our Shark Week episode. So that'll be coming in July as well. And a live wrap-up show August 18th. So anybody who's here, you guys should A, comment on all of our videos, and B, tune into that live show so you can chat with us like you're doing right now.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the activity in here tonight. I want to make a few notes just for everyone listening. I had someone wonderfully sent me a copy of a game they've designed called Leaves and Thieves. I'm going to be kind of scoping this game out. This arrived probably 2-3 weeks ago, and I need to get to it. The other thing I wanted to note, I'm going to try and get something because I've seen people asking about, but I got a copy of Summer Camp from Target. It looks like a lot of fun. Outside of the comments I've read about the thinness of the cards, I'm not going to complain about this stuff. The game looks like a ton of fun and like a great entry-level deck builder, which to me is exciting because I love deck building. So, yeah, so I got this one that I got to check out. It looks pretty fun with what was designed, and a few other things coming that way. And then more stuff on Creators Corner. So stay tuned. I've had some great conversations lately on there, and I'll have more to come. If you're interested in anything from Anthony, please go check out Board Game Dads if you're watching this on my channel. And if you're watching on Anthony's channel, come on over to Tabletop Express. We'd love to have you along for the ride. And with that note, I have one positive thing I want to tell you, Anthony, which is I am about 99% sure I'm going to be able to go to PAX Unplugged this year. So that is my everything. So keep that. I'm going to keep that optimism. And when that is official, I will put something out and let people know so I can hopefully see you there. Lastly, I want everyone to keep an eye out on my channel. Anthony, maybe you can help me share this. I've got a copy of the game Medium because the guests from Storm Chaser Games were on my show recently, and I've got a copy that they want me to give away to you. So details on how to do that is going to be coming. I'll make a video highlighting that, and I'll be sharing that on social. So if you're interested in that, it's going to be very easy to enter. But free games, I'm sure people will love a free game and a copy Medium, which is a ton of fun. I'll be talking about that soon too. On that note, please go check out the series. Thank you for joining us this evening, and I hope you all have a great time. I thank you for taking a ride here aboard the Tabletop Express, and we'll be catching up with you all very, very soon. Thanks for coming along for the ride.